when talking about something like this. But before that, there's a question I asked myself some time ago, and the question was that, is it possible to actually work and not have results? And the reason why I asked this question, if you pay attention, I said I'm somebody who pay attention to details. So a lot of things that a lot of people are not saying, I pay attention to it because it is in those details you are able to like draft out a strategy. So I realized that I was coming back from work that day, the 9 to 5 worker in Lagos. Now stress free this. I was coming back from work that day, and then I saw a few persons walk by. And the question that popped up in my head was that these people are old already, and I will get there someday. And the question I asked myself is that, what happened? Why is it that they are in this situation? Was there a time whereby time and chance happened, but they didn't see it? And this question I ask a lot of time because it tells me to do an audit of my life, an audit of my process, an audit of whatever thing I'm doing, right? So when I paid attention to it, I asked myself questions that, okay, is it really possible to have a life of results? And when I'm saying results, I'm not just talking about the flamboyancy of wealth. I'm talking about a result that equates with your self-fulfillment. There are times whereby we see that when people are talking about results, they are really talking about fame, they're talking about money, right? But then I've seen that it transcends beyond that. There is I'll call it a spirit in us that gives us this confirmation that we are actually living the life we are expected to live. And I've met very rich people that are not happy. You know, when people say that you meet rich people that are not happy, I really do not believe that concept, because I believe that if you have money, you can buy everything that you want. But you need to meet a man who has not lived up to his potential. You see the true definition of depression. So I've seen that when we talk about results, I'm really much more concerned about a life that has physical proof and then that has internal proof. That is what I think results is. That there is a confirmation outside that when people see you, they can give a testament that, okay, this guy actually has results. And then when you are indoor, when nobody is seeing you, you know that you have results. But then how do we get there? I have a framework that works for me, and I believe it's going to work for you. I call it, it's a 4-step framework. Number one, I believe everybody goes through this aspect of life. I believe so. I believe everybody goes through this aspect of life. I call it, the first step is illusion of knowledge. Illusion of knowledge. And what does that mean? How many of you are familiar with this concept that somebody's playing a song and then you are dancing in your mind? So when you are dancing in your mind, your steps are so perfect. How many of you have been in that space before? You are dancing in your mind, but then when you decide to like explore that dance outside, you see that you are whack. Like, God, what am I doing? Right? And then that is an illusion that is playing in the life of every one of us. It means that there is a state of mind where a person can be that you believe you know the answer to your problem, but you really do not know it. There's a concept I used to judge my life is that if you know the truth, it must set you free. That is the idea of truth now. That every truth that you know must set you free. Even though you don't get the actual freedom immediately, there must be a progress. So that means if we pay attention to your life, that you have been applying the truth for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and there is no progress to it, it means that truth is not confirmed. Do you understand? There's a pattern I saw in the life of Jesus, is that when you look at Jesus, if Jesus wants to perform a miracle, you would see that he has a concept in which he does it. He asks his father, right? And then we see that that same concept played out in the life of the disciples. They knew that this truth will only manifest when I ask the Father. That is a pattern, right? So it means that I know that this truth will set me free if I do it consistently. So now a lot of people are living in that illusion of knowledge. If you ask somebody right now, let's do a practical and call people out there, how do we make money? You see that a lot of people tell you, okay, do digital marketing, learn this particular skill. And then over time, you have been saying this thing for 3 years and there is no result. It means that what you have is just an idea. The truth itself, you've not found it. Do you get what I'm trying to say? The truth itself, you've not found. And it makes so much sense to me because I audit my life with it every single day. Once I do 6 months and no practical result, I begin to check what is the truth I've been practicing that is actually not truthing. Do you get? And this calls us to a place of solemn gathering, where we sit with ourselves, with our mind, and begin to ask ourselves that, okay, if I say I know the truth, why am I not free? Why am I still bound? Let me bring it to the Christian world. A lot of us will say that God is a provider, but how many of you can prove it here and now? That God is a there's something I always tell people, that God is a God of system. And if God is a God of system, it means that if He has a structure in which something can happen, if you do it with the truth that you're supposed to do it with, it will work. So if you say that you are you understand the principle of provision, and then you have worked all your life and there is no provision, it means you don't know it. I listen to pastors a lot, and whenever I listen to them, there is something I paid attention, especially apostles, is that they have an idea of when something wants to happen. This is not magic. It's not guesswork. I know it. So a lot of us are living in that illusion of knowledge. We believe the things that we know is enough to set us free. But this is me telling you to go back and check. Do you truly know what will set you free? Do you truly have an idea of what will set you free? If you remember that while we were talking in our first session, I was saying that I have a father of mine that advises me a lot. And I really listen to his advice because it's very profound. It tells me the future. It tells me how to prepare for the future, right? But then there was something I realized, is that it's possible for a person to be full of knowledge and have no result. It's very possible. Very, very possible that you are so knowledgeable and you don't have results. So knowledgeable and you don't have results. It's just a thin line between finding what works. I hope if you get what I'm trying to say. Are we getting me? So we need to step out of that illusion of knowledge. Do a self-audit every single time. Am I walking through the path? I think I was mentioning in our first session that if we pay attention to trends now, we see that everything is delving into AI. And majority of people's work will be lost, right? But then I told us that there is a way that you can position yourself ahead of time, right? That you can study pattern and position yourself ahead of time. You remember that? But what I'm trying to tell us right now today, before we move into the next thing, is that let's step out of that illusion of knowledge. Let's go back home and check it again, that, okay, if I say that this truth is what I know, why is it not working yet? So once a man leaves that phase of illusion of knowledge, he enters into what I call pursuit/purpose. If you check in time, you would see that when, in the olden days, in the days of our fathers, you see that when we are looking at achievement in itself, we will relate it to material things. Our fathers, if they want to speak about achievement, they relate it to material things. And when somebody wants to show that he's doing something, he shows it with his career, that I'm pursuing money, I'm pursuing a goal. But then I've realized that pursuit is just the beginning of every man's life. Pursuit is just the beginning. We begin to run after one thing or the other. Okay, I need to achieve this, I need to achieve that. But what gives a definition to that pursuit is purpose. So what purpose does is that it gives a new definition to your pursuit. Now you know that you're not just chasing a career, you're chasing a life that brings impact to a lot. There's a difference, a big difference. Let me give an example. Let's look at the workspace, for example. A 9 to 5 work, I worked there and I paid attention to a few things. You meet two different kinds of staffs. You see a staff that says that, okay, I'm going to do all I need to do, have all my KPIs, and then you pay me. And then you see one that tells you that, okay, I am interested in this business. I like what my boss is doing. I think I should work towards it. Two different people. Is that one has pursuit, but one has purpose. Two different things. And there's something I found about purpose that is very important, is that for a man with a life of purpose, there are two things that are very important. Before I even go there, let me look at it this way, that there's a way I define purpose. I would say that purpose in itself is defined by different people in different ways. For example, we have them in two folds. We have somebody that believes that purpose is connected to a divine, that any purpose that are going to find must be connected to God. And we have some set of individuals that believe that purpose is just them finding out a big vision that they want to achieve. Two set of individuals. But there's something that is peculiar to every one of them, is that a man of purpose understands the seed and he understands his harvest. And what does that mean? It means that if a man that has found purpose, he knows what he needs to do to be able to get the kind of result he's expecting. Purpose gives direction to life. I believe a lot of people that are experiencing a complexity in life is because their life is of many options. I want to do this. I want to become this. I want to become this. And then they are spreading their energy in different ways. There was a time somebody came to meet me and then he said to me that, this thing that you are doing, I feel you should add this and this to it. And then I gave him an answer. I told him that different heads with different crowns. What does that mean? It means that I have an idea of my seed. and I have an idea of what the harvest looks like. What is my seed, if you ask me? Is that while a lot of people are working hand to mouth, while a lot of people are trying to build a career, I'm interested in the fact that I am a teacher and I need to build this more than I build every other thing. That is my seed. I need to build this wisdom. I need to stay with God enough to be able to let Him inspire me. I know that my own seed is I need to build a level of knowledge that when humans listen to me, they can see that there is something more than this. That is my seed. And once I understand my seed, it helps me understand what the harvest looks like. So a man of purpose has what? An idea of his seed. And has an idea of his harvest. Do you know what that does? Is that if you look at a farmer, for example, a farmer who is expecting an harvest of tuber will not go to the farm and expect maize, right? And that's the way I see purpose. Is that I know that if I give my time to this enough, I know what the harvest will look like. If you ask me what is my harvest is the attention of men. I was giving us an illustration in the book of First Chronicles, chapter 12, that when there was a tilt in the power from Saul to David, there was an attention of men diversion. The Bible said that different people from different places begin to tilt to David. If you look at the cave of Adullam, you see that people begin to tilt to David. And David already prepared, he knows his seed. His seed was that I need to be a great warrior. He understands that he needs to stay with God enough to be able to build his connection with God. I asked myself a question that, okay, let's look at David. There was a time whereby the Bible told us that David built the mighty men. 30 mighty men. Are you familiar with that story? 30 mighty men of David. And I asked myself a question that each and all of these mighty men became warriors and they became leaders. I then asked myself a question, why did they stay loyal to David even after they've gotten all there is that they want? Was that there was still something special about David that they can't get anywhere? Was that David stayed with God? And he knew that that is his seed. That is what brings uniqueness to his life. What I'm trying to tell us is that as a man of purpose, you need to understand what your seed is and understand what your harvest looks like. It prevents you from fighting different demons. You know the kind of demon I have to fight. When I'm saying demon, I'm not saying spiritual here. I know the kind of battles I have to fight. I know the kind of warfare I have to fight. Don't start fighting other ones. There is direction. Are we paying attention? So once you cross that illusion of knowledge, we enter into that phase of purpose. So once we enter into that phase of purpose, we then move to what I call systems. What does that mean? I see that a man of purpose will burn out without system. A man of purpose will burn out without system. And an illustration that I can give to this is the story of this man called Moses. Moses at a time whereby he was leading the Israelites, right? His father Jethro came, or father-in-law Jethro came around, and then Jethro had to tell Moses that you would burn out. That trying to lead all of these people alone, you would burn out. Then say, okay, create a system, create men who will become systems for you. And that was the changing factor for him, was that it helped him to live even longer. Look at Jesus, for example. At the time Jesus was done with, he has been teaching his disciples, but then he did something very unique, is that he sent them 2 by 2 to nations he's still going to go to. Do you know what that is? Systems. It prevents him from burning out. That is why you see that when after Jesus has transcended to heaven, there was still systems that were working because he has been putting them through it. I always tell people that once you have found influence, once you have found that purpose, the next thing is distribution. And distribution is a lot of work. A lot of work. You realize that you are attending, let me use myself as a case study. I realize that if I pay attention to my duties as a Christian and as a teacher to a lot of people, and then I pay attention to my duties as a business person, then I pay attention to my duties as a coach, and all of these things, I do them alone, I will burn out. My ability to convert this energy into something that is profitable enough to be able to make impact in those areas is very small. So what do? I create systems. I create structures. How do I ensure that this continues? Are we paying attention? How do I ensure that this continues? And finally, it's what I call legacy. So we are moving from breaking out of that illusion of knowledge into a space of creating purpose. And then into a space of what? Creating systems. And then we move into legacy. And this is the most important one. Let's pay attention. It's the most important one. Is that when I pay attention to my life, or I pay attention to people I see as a role model, there is something I learn. And what I learn is that I'm very much interested in what happens afterwards. Can I say afterwards when I'm gone? And a lot of people do not think about these things. And one of the case studies that I think is very fascinating to me is Miles Monroe. Is that you cannot speak about any topic relating to life that you will not find Miles Monroe at the front. Legacy. Is that there is something that you have done enough to ensure that even when you are gone, there are people talking about you. And what that does to me is that is an asset to me. I believe it's an asset for my children and my children's children. Remember what I said, that as a leader, you are not just concerned about yourself. You are predominantly concerned about the things that are afterwards. You are concerned about your surrounding. You are concerned about the people. You are concerned about the next generation to come. So if you have that mindset, it allows you to start building a life of legacy. It helps you to start building a life of conscious move. That, okay, what are the things I need to put out there that will ensure my name never goes out? I was studying the concept of influence. I was having a discussion with a friend of mine. We were studying the concept of influence. And I said influence is vapor. Means that the influence that you can gather today can disappear. The limelight can shift away from you to somebody else. And that is how it happens. You can't hold the limelight for long, but you can create systems that ensure that you are in it. You can create systems that ensure that you are in it. And my point here is that we need to start creating systems into this world. If you pay attention, let's use Miles Monroe as an example. If you pay attention to Miles Monroe, search Miles Monroe online, you see ebooks, you see videos, you see audios, you see paperback, different kind of things, ensuring that his name doesn't run out. I was doing a coaching with somebody as of last month, and then I told this guy that, okay, once you are done with all of these things, ensure that by all means necessary, your name is everywhere. In fact, I always go on Google every time and search my name. I ensure that anybody that is bearing my name, I need to outpass this person. Like that front page and second page must be me. Images must be me. Videos must be me. History, everything there must be me. That is how I sustain my legacy. And pay attention, that is just system. There's also sustaining your legacies through humans. There was a strategy that God had to give to the disciples. God had to give to Moses and every other person. He would tell to them that, okay, once you are done with this thing, write it on a stone. So that the next generation will do what? Will see it. Joshua did it. Every one of them did it. Do you know why? I always tell people that history can be edited. What? Can be edited. And the more you become conscious of that aspect, is that you begin to ensure that everything that can make sure your history is edited, you tackle it now. There's a way that you can put yourself out there so much of your life. What I think I believe in, do I actually believe in it? If you say this thing works, why is it not working for me? As much as we all like to complain, as much, it's fine, we are humans, it's fine to complain, it's fine to talk about why I've been trying all of these things and it's not working. But you need to step into that point and ask yourself, why is it not working? Like, why is it not working? Because if you don't pay attention to doing an audit, people will give you advices. Do you know how many times my parents have told me that this thing that you're doing, I don't think there's profit in it. But I listen to them then. Come on. Because I do an audit every single time. I hope I'm not living in that phase of illusion of knowledge. If I tell you that I know God, if I tell you that I believe in God, I must be able to practicalize it here and now. My life must be an example. So we step out of that illusion of knowledge. We enter into pursuit. That means a man knows why he's waking up every day. That there is something I need to achieve. But then that needs to be defined. And what defines it is what? Purpose. But when a man has found purpose, you need to find a way of distributing it. And he distributes it through what? Systems. And I said systems can be what? Structures and people. And then after distributing it through systems, you focus on legacy. 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 You will know the benefit of legacy when your children start growing up. Have you seen whereby somebody just needs to write a letter and then the door is open automatically? Or they just need to mention your name and the door is open automatically? Do you think if our parents, some of our parents had the ability to be able to speak to one or two persons for us to move faster, they won't do it? They will. But then we don't blame our parents. No. I think that's childish. Then what we can do is to also take up the responsibilities and tell ourselves that, okay, how do I change my life? Remember what I said in our first teaching, I'm rounding up now, that the complexities of the future will still happen. What changes it is your decision today. And I said that a lot of people focus on the big decisions. Who to marry, where to stay. But then you forget about your habits, what you do every single day. Some of us cannot even say that I will do this thing and then I do it completely. Some of us don't even have the habit of knowing how to nurture our health. All of those basic things are very important. This is how to live a life of results. That that illusion of knowledge, you enter into pursuit. That means your life makes a meaning. You are interested in achieving something. And then that pursuit becomes defined by purpose. And then you realize that, okay, I am a man of purpose. I have started doing things, but then I will burn out. So I need to start creating systems. What do I need to put together in such a way that I ensure that my name keeps going on? And then I focus on legacy. I don't know if this has been helpful, but I believe that you have found one or two things to gain from it, right? So my advice to us is that let's not focus about the noise out there. I think a lot of people suffer more from the civil war, from the problems that go internally. Some of us are still battling with self-esteem. Some of us are still battling with inconsistency. Why not solve that problem now? I just tell people that, Christians precisely, that if you are interested in God announcing you, I think your focus should be, how do I change my flaws? How do I correct it fast? Because that is what God is actually doing. That's what we mean by God is preparing us, right? That there is a flaw in you that God has noticed. And then once you can't just go out there and go and disgrace me. So your question is that, okay, this thing about me, how do I start correcting? And how do I start correcting it fast? That's how to create a life of results. Let me end like how my boss said, I don't know if I'm able to confuse you